Welcome to the Deep Dive Library. We're really glad you're here joining our community as we explore these really powerful books together. It's all about understanding entrepreneurship, finance, personal growth,
Absolutely. We learn together here.
Exactly. And today we've got a request from one of our listeners, The Learner. We're diving into Elon Musk's early career, specifically using excerpts from the audiobook of Walter Isaacson's biography.
Yeah, focusing on that really formative period, say mid-90s to mid-2000s.
Right. Our mission. To pull out the key insights, we're looking at where that famous intensity came from, his mindset, and, the very beginnings of Zip2, X.com, which became PayPal, of course, and even the first sparks of SpaceX and Tesla.
And there are definitely some, let's say, surprising details in there. Things people might not connect with the Musk we know today.
For sure. So stick with us. We think you'll get some really actionable insights from this look at how ambition like his gets started. And hey, if you like what we do, definitely hit subscribe, join the community, and let us know what you think. We genuinely read the comments. Okay, let's jump in.
Let's do it. That period is just packed with revealing moments. What jumps out immediately, I think, is the sheer intensity.
Oh, yeah.
Isaacson details how Musk drove himself, deadlines, crises, sometimes to the point of physical collapse.
Yeah.
But it also seemed to kind of fuel him.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Like, that energy comes from the crisis, makes you wonder about people like him and Steve Jobs. Did they need that pressure to achieve what they did? Or was it just, part of the package?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And is it sustainable? Interestingly, Isaacson notes that by 2022, Musk himself kind of recognized this. He talked about a compulsion to stir up dramas.
Right, and wanting to get away from crisis mode.
But then almost immediately after saying that, he secretly starts buying up Twitter shares.
Mm-hmm. So the self-awareness is there, maybe, but the action doesn't always follow. It speaks to maybe how deeply ingrained that pattern is.
It really suggests it's fundamental to how he operates. And you see hints of his, let's say, unique social approach even back then. At parties, apparently, he could seem a bit detached.
More of an observer?
Yeah, or focused on video games. Not exactly the smooth networker you might picture. Maybe that distance gave him a different perspective.
That's interesting. Like, not getting caught up in the immediate social dynamics allowed him to analyze things differently. Kimball, his brother, had that quote about him being like an observer from a different planet.
Exactly. That feeling of being an outsider, fundamentally alienated, it could definitely fuel that drive to do things differently, to ignore the usual paths.
And speaking of paths, back then, Wall Street was a huge draw for ambitious grads. But Musk wasn't tempted.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
He seemed to genuinely believe that tech, building things, contributed more than finance or law. He wanted Silicon Valley, wanted to make a tangible impact.
Which you totally see in his internships, right? They weren't just random CV builders.
Not at all. Pinnacle Research Institute working on supercapacitors for EVs and space weapons. Quite the combo.
Yeah, talk about foreshadowing. And then Rocket Science, the video game company, it shows those twin passions were there really early on.
Definitely. And he saw that supercapacitor tech not just as an improvement, but as something radically new. He had an eye for disruption even then.
And he wasn't just theoretical. That story about the road trip with Kimball in that old BMW.
Oh yeah, the car kept breaking down. The mechanic couldn't fix it.
But Musk figures it out at a truck stop. That practical hands-on problem solving, it's a recurring thing.
It absolutely is. Though sometimes the resourcefulness took other forms, like that emerald necklace story.
Ah, right, for his college girlfriend. Supposedly from his dad's mine, which wasn't quite the reality.
Yeah, the mine was bankrupt, didn't belong to his dad. It shows an early awareness of, let's say, crafting a narrative, creating an impression.
And maybe related to that, or just his observational nature, was his fascination with that Denver airport baggage system.
Right. The automated one that was apparently a bit of a disaster.
But he didn't just see failure. He saw a lesson about over-automation. A lesson he'd maybe have to revisit later with Tesla factories.
Exactly. Sometimes you learn the lesson, but you have to learn it again when the scale gets much, much bigger.
So all these little pieces sort of formed the backdrop for his first real venture, Zip2. What was the core idea there again?
Pretty simple, actually, but clever for the time. An online directory of businesses, searchable, combined with maps. Like Yellow Pages meets MapQuest, but online.
Showing that early grasp of the internet's potential for practical information.
Definitely. But not everyone got it back then. Kimball pitched it to the Toronto Star president.
And got the Yellow Pages thrown at him, right? Like, why would anyone need this online? Hard to fathom now.
Totally. So the early Zip2 days were pure startup grind. Sleeping in the office.
Showering at the Y, cheap food, Musk coding himself into exhaustion.
The whole 9 yards. They did get some seed money from their father and used his old car, which gives you a sense of the early resources. It wasn't like they started with millions.
And there was that snag at the border, right? Trying to get back into the U.S.
Yeah, visa issues. His solution. Get a friend to drive him across and tell the border guard they were going to see David Letterman.
You gotta admire the quick thinking, even if it's a bit sketchy.
It worked. Eventually, more David O Ventures came in with serious investment, which also sorted out the work visas.
And that's when he finally bought his dream car.
That's right. The 67 Jaguar E-Type.
Oh.
Finally struck it rich.
Only for it to break down all the time. A bit ironic.
A classic startup story element, right? The unreliable first luxury purchase. But then came the venture capital reality. Adult supervision.
Rich Sorkin as CEO, Musk becomes CTO.
And Musk, well, he realized pretty quickly he didn't like not being fully in charge. He had this strong belief even then that the tech or product visionary had to be the CEO.
And the strategy shifted too, right? Sorkin wanted to sell software to newspapers.
Yeah, more of a B2B play. Musk wanted Zip2 to be a big consumer destination like Yahoo or AOL. Big clash of visions.
Which led to that rebellion against the City Search merger.
He fought it hard, tried to get himself reinstated as CEO, didn't work, got removed as chairman.
Ouch. Must have reinforced his view about wary professional managers not achieving great things.
You'd think so. But despite all that drama, Compaq bought Zip2.
For a pretty penny. $307 million.
In Musk's share, around $22 million. Suddenly he had serious capital.
Which he immediately plowed into X.com.
Exactly. And the vision for X.com was huge from the start, not just payments, but a full online bank, maybe even with social elements, way ahead of its time again.
And the management style, same intensity.
If anything, ramped up. Insane deadlines, pushing people incredibly hard. Got results, but definitely ruffled feathers.
They launched super fast, though. Thanksgiving weekend 99.
Yep. Celebrated by getting cash from an ATM with an X.com card. Symbolic.
But then, deja vu. More adult supervision.
Bill Harris came in as CEO. Musk stayed on as product-led and chair. And he really leaned into viral marketing. Those sign-up bonuses were pretty innovative then.
And that focus on simple UI, that was already there.
Oh, yeah. He was passionate about making it easy to use, which leads us to Confinity, Peter Thiel's company. PayPal.
The courtship and merger. And the infamous McLaren crash.
Ah, yeah. Musk's takeaway. See, I take risks. Thiel's takeaway. Okay, he's kind of crazy.
Sums them up pretty well, maybe. Musk initially resisted the merger, though.
He did. He still believed X.com's broader banking vision was superior to just payments.
But they bonded over being nerdy, basically, and maybe not loving Harris's style.
That seemed to be part of it. They found common ground, agreed to merge, X.com got the majority stake, Musk became CEO, initially.
Initially being the key word. The coup happened while he was on his honeymoon.
Yeah, ousted. He felt completely betrayed, tried to fight it. Reid Hoffman talked about Musk's reality distortion field even then.
Musk kept pushing his big bank idea, right? Citing the innovator's dilemma.
He did. Tried to convince Hoffman to take over as CEO even. But the core difference was risk appetite. Hoffman's quote about Musk getting people to march across a desert is telling.
That poker story with Lepchin, too. Musk going all in, even when it seemed crazy.
Classic Musk risk profile. But, despite him being pushed out, PayPal obviously became huge. eBay bought it for $1.5 billion.
And Musk walked away with a lot more this time. $250 million.
Roughly $250 million.
Yeah.
And interestingly, he later reconciled with Thiel and Lepchin. Even admitted maybe being ousted was for the best. Though he still thought he could have made it $1 trillion company.
Always thinking bigger. What did he do right after that massive payday?
Took a week off, his first and apparently last proper vacation.
Wow. And then visited family. Rio, South Africa. Sounded complicated.
Yeah, especially the interactions with his father. Then he gets back and comes down with viral meningitis. Pretty rough patch.
But it was during that recovery period, wasn't it, that the Mars idea really took hold?
That seems to be the timeline. It wasn't just a cool idea. It was driven by this deep concern that technological progress wasn't inevitable, that we might just stagnate.
So space travel became the mission. He had those 3 reasons, right?
Yeah. 1, progress isn't guaranteed. 2, making life multiplanetary is the next huge evolutionary step. And 3, well, his ability to frame it almost like a calling, a mandate from heaven.
Which led him to LA, closer to the aerospace world.
Right. And his first thought wasn't even a company, it was philanthropy. send mice to Mars, or a small greenhouse, just to inspire people, maybe get NASA more funding.
But he realized that wouldn't cut it. Using old Russian rockets wasn't going to fundamentally change the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which led to the spreadsheet on the plane moment, flying back from Russia thinking, wait, what if I just built the rockets myself?
Calculating the costs. And the established aerospace guys like Griffin and Cantrell, they thought he was nuts.
Pretty much dismissed it. Even his friends tried to talk him out of it, saying the chance of failure was incredibly high.
And his response, I know. Basically, if you're trying to tell me it's likely to fail, I'm already there.
Total acceptance of the risk, because the mission, that mandate, felt that important.
So the nonprofit idea became a for-profit company, SpaceX, for sustainability.
Exactly. Founded May 2002, needed to be a business to survive and actually achieve the goal. Focus on cost, maximizing boost for the buck.
Still struggled to recruit those big names initially, though.
Yeah, Griffin and Cantrell didn't join. But he pushed forward and, true to form, set wildly ambitious initial deadlines. Launched by late 2003, Mars by 2010.
That pattern again. Around the same time his first child, Nevada, was born adds another layer to everything happening.
Absolutely. And that ongoing, difficult relationship with his father, Errol, was still there in the background. The weird offer of a yacht, just complex family stuff alongside world-changing ambitions.
So wrapping this up, looking back at this whole period, what really stands out?
For me, it's that relentless drive, obviously. The willingness to take absolutely massive risks based on these grand visions. And you see the seeds of everything later, the disruption, the management style, the challenges with control and people.
Yeah, and the ambitious timelines. It's all there in these early ventures. You can see how Zip2 and PayPal, even with the struggles, paved the way for the even bigger swings with SpaceX and Tesla.
Completely. The lessons learned, the capital gained, the reputation, however controversial, being built, it all connects.
It really makes you think. For you, the listener, considering these formative experiences, what single trait do you believe was most crucial to Musk's eventual impact? And maybe, what are the inherent downsides to that level of ambition and risk-taking? Something to mull over.
Definitely food for thought. It's rarely simple.
Never is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope exploring these early years was valuable. Remember to subscribe to keep learning with our community, and we'll catch you on the next one.